guys, it's Laura Davils here, and I have a bunch of books out because I want to talk about different kinds of magical books, right? So this is kind of like for your own knowledge, so that whenever you go to a witchy shop, you'll know, is this a historical resource book? Is this, like, these are my historical resource books. They're not magical in any way, right? They're just resources, myths and mythologies, gods and goddesses books, things like that. Whether it is a beginner's book, supplemental book, things like that. Whether it is a book telling you about a system of doing things, right? Systems. Or whether it is a magical resource book. So you have your non-magical historical, and then you have your magical resource books. So we're going to start with the magical resource books because a lot of people, we like these a lot, right? So a lot of your Llewellyn's Complete Book of Blank, those are really great resource books, especially the ones that have multiple authors. This one was only contributed by Richard Webster, and you can definitely see that in how much smaller the book is compared to Llewellyn's other complete books, and there's only really one perspective here. So that is a little bit of a drawback of this particular book, but this one is fantastic. I've already done a review on this, right? Magical resource book. It is a book, what I consider to be a magical resource book, is a book that has several different systems, maybe several different authors, maybe only one author, but at least talks about several different areas of quote-unquote magic, right? This one, everyone, I think, has this encyclopedia of 5,000 spells, right? Better than 1,001, it's 5,000. This is an interesting resource book if you are making your own spell, right? And then, of course, we have Silver Ravenwolf. She has a lot of these introductory books. I will say that this one was definitely geared more towards teenagers who are in high school. The way that she talks to you, the examples that she brings up, and I'm not saying she talks to you like you're a teenager, right? Because teenagers are pretty much almost adults and they think that they're adults, so you talk to them like adults. It's not that she's talking to you like you're a child, but the examples she gives are examples of things that like happen in high school, right? But even so, this book covers everything, and Silver Ravenwolf is an amazing author, and she has other books that aren't this one that maybe don't use examples from a high school setting, right? But even so, this is, I know that everything that I find in here is going to be at a certain level, right? And even so, so much detail, right? Like on the aura. I love what she wrote about auras. I have that tabbed, right? Strengthening your auric senses exercise and how to see auras. I actually have a much better book on how to read auras. We're not going to get into that, actually. Anyway, it's a great resource book. Much like there are a lot of these floating around. Occult Encyclopedias. Now, this one is older. This one my mother gave me, so she had this way back when. This is just one example of an encyclopedia of the occult, and I have to say the language is dated. So I think it's nice to have an encyclopedia of the occult that is dated, while also having an encyclopedia that's maybe not so dated. So this is kind of my not so dated encyclopedia, because this very much feels like an encyclopedia. And this one is more of my dated encyclopedia. It's nice to know because of a lot of the new age things that come around can be a little fad-ish, right? So some of the crystal correspondences are tried and true, and some of the crystal correspondences are yanked out of someone's butt. So I like to have a more dated encyclopedia as well as a newer one. The newer one to keep you up to date on all of the new stuff that people are doing, and an older one to kind of anchor you at a certain place in time, the 80s, is when that one was written, I believe. Then you have your non-magical resource books. So if you are into anything having to do with Vikings, Nordic magic, runes, that kind of stuff, the Poetic Edda or any of the Eddas is an absolute must. I love Jackson Crawford, so I had to show his, right? The Epic of Gilgamesh. I think everyone should read this book, so I threw it in there. Lots of really cool and interesting magic in that book when you know where to look, much like how the Bible is. The Bible would be here too. The only Bible I have is a big fat heirloom Bible, and I'm not taking it off the shelf. But the Bible would fall into this category. Myths of Mesopotamia, right? And then this one actually kind of crosses the line between the two. So this is from Francois Lenormand, Chaldean Magic. I said his name all fancy because he's French, and I think I know how to speak French. Anyway, Chaldean Magic. This one is fantastic. The only thing I have to say is that back in the day, whenever they were first translating the tablets that they found in Ugarit, which is an ancient Mesopotamian site, they translated the word priest as prostitute. So if you come across the word prostitute in some of these older books about Chaldea, Mesopotamia, anywhere in the Fertile Crescent, and it says prostitute, but it's men, and there's a lot of them, and they're in a temple, it's not prostitute, it's priest. So after making those corrections, this made a lot more sense. And again, it's not a word that is used very often in the translations. So you'll know it when you see it when it's translated wrong. So basically anything written before a certain time period is going to use the word prostitute instead of priest, simply because of historical resentments built up against the Mesopotamians and the these folks, the Canaanites, because we're going to talk about this one next. These two books talk about the same people pretty much. So, whereas this is a historical resource written by an anthropologist, he was also very much interested in their rituals and religion. So there's a lot of information about ritual and religion in here, not necessarily how to do it. That is the difference between whether it would fall into a historical resource category or a magical resource category, right? And then you have your magic books, right? So there's the resource category, and then there is the practitioner category. Fred, get down from there. Oy. Fred is on where I've got all my stuff mounted. I've got this very interesting amalgamation of boxes that I have my phone set on so that I can film this. And he was threatening to knock it down. Can't have that, can't have that. So those are the resource books and the two different kinds of resource books, right? You got your magical resource books and your non-magical historical resource books. Now you have your magic books. You have your standalone magic books, right, that are kind of supplemental. And then you have your magic books that are more based on a system and teaching you that system. So we're going to start with the systems, actually. It's closer to me. So this is the Horned Altar. What makes this one different from Chaldean magic is she is an anthropologist who writes this, but she practices. As far as we know, Francois Lenormand did not. He did not. And he certainly didn't write it down in this book if he did. She does. What I love about this book, it's a little bit hard to find now, but the first half is all historical, and she'll tell you where she delineates, if she in fact does delineate from historical into opinion. She tells you when she does, and she only does it like, I think 2 or 3 times in the entire first half of the book. The second half of the book is her revival of Canaanite magic. It is very fascinating, very interesting. It is a system that she is resurrecting. I believe she calls it, it's been a few months since I read this book, Natib Kaddish. Natib Kaddish. And it means, oh, I'm not on that page, it's a different page. But anyway, Natib Kaddish is what she calls it, the revival magic. So you can probably find, she talks about how she uses online forums with people from around the world who are also interested in reviving Canaanite magic, aka Chaldea, aka Mesopotamia. They were all a melting pot, kind of, right? So this is a really good book, and it is about her system, and I don't think she's written anything else about her system specifically. This one is the most comprehensive and best from her. Then we have Franz Barden and the Hermetics, right? That's a system. That's a whole system. It's walking you through how to do it, right? You have Josephine McCarthy's Magical Knowledge series, right? And this is kind of a system, kind of supplemental, kind of a system, right? So it kind of falls in between these two categories. You'll find books that do that. Gates of Witchcraft by Christopher Pinchak. This one is really, really great. It's a great beginner's resource. And it's very all-encompassing, very, how do I say it? Again, you have this, this melting pot thing that happens where he's pulling from different cultures and different magical systems, but he's telling you what system it comes from. So that if you really like the technique, certain techniques, and they all keep coming out from one system or one culture or one area of the world, you can focus on that. That's another reason why the magical resource books, occult encyclopedias, things like that are so important too. You might find that the things that you really like are all coming from a specific place. And it's easy to know that when the author is actually citing their sources. We love Christopher Pinchak for that. Cite your sources. Josephine McCarthy is also really, really good. Just for everything. And this is her Quarea apprentice book. You don't need to buy the book. It's all online for free. But I get dumb in front of a screen. I mean, watch my videos. I get dumb in front of a screen. So I really, really like her apprentice program, and I really like to have the physical book, but it's not necessary. You don't need to buy the physical book. There are 3 books. I only have the one because it's going to take me a really long time to get through this one. Just to be honest, it is an extremely comprehensive system, probably more so than most of the systems that you find nowadays, but I'm sure that there are others. These are examples of books on magical systems. As you can see, they can range from being very thick to being very thin. Now, of course, this is just the first book in the series, right? Yes. So those are all books on systems, and I'm going to try to put these back in something that resembles a stack. And now we're going to talk about supplemental magical books. This is going to make up the majority of the books that you find online, magical books that you find being reviewed. Most of them are going to be these supplemental texts. If they are using a system, they'll tell you the system, but most of the time they do not. And most of the time you figure out halfway through, it's like, this sounds like Wicca. You basically have to look at the author bio, and they'll tell you what they practice usually. Now, this is an oldie, but a goodie. My mom gave me this book. It is Spells, Charms, Talismans, and Amulets by Pamela Ball. There's a lot of really good stuff in here, but it is very heavy Wicca based. But again, it is really cool. And something that I also think is super cool about this book. Where are they? As I just flipped through here and I was like, oh my goodness. She has runes in here, but she also has staves, which are slightly different if you see what that is. I'm not that well versed in runes or staves, so I don't know if these are new agey staves or if they are, you know, actual historical recreation staves. You would know that if you know that. I don't. This is one of those standalone resource books. Not resource, standalone magic books. The Mystical Kabbalah, I also consider to be the one by Dion Fortune, is also considered to be a supplemental book because she's not initiating you into a system. She's not telling you how to initiate yourself into a magical system. She's just talking about Kabbalah. Kabbalah is used in tons of different magic systems, tons, absolutely tons. Next, I have 3 books by Dinning and Phillips, published by Llewellyn. These are really, really great. So, visual and ritual magic. This is a great resource to have if you're interested in visual magic, visual meditation, anything like that. This is the one. This is good for everyone to have. Psychic self-defense. Everyone should know how to do that. And then astral projection. That's really just, you know, if you're into that, you're into that. Get it. I'm not sure. I think they have more books, but I also like that they all match. They look pretty on your bookshelf. And I'm all about pretty on my bookshelf. Yes. Now we have more of the kind of more like what you see. I wasn't particularly happy with either of these books. And these are kind of more, they're thin for one. So they're usually thin. They usually have, you know, spells in it or creative ideas. They might have a little bit of how you should work the spells, you know, very basic, assuming that you're already working off of another system. And usually they're just kind of basic, right? I mean, I did enjoy this book when I first got it, and I was just kind of not really sure what I wanted to do spiritually or not, and I thought it was cool, you know, but I never actually did a lot of the things in here. I just read it as a fun resource to read, right? Spells for the Solitary Witch was a little bit more informative on things, but mostly these are going to have spells and spell ideas in them, right? So they're supplemental. They're not teaching you a system, right? So they might go through how to cleanse, right? Basic stuff like that, but not really like a system. They're supplemental to whatever system you're already using. A lot of people use these and don't actually use a system, and they're kind of more eclectic. And that's also cool. That's cool too, right? The systems are great. Just depending on what your learning style is. I like to feel like I'm making progress and I'm going step by step. These are more, you've already got an inkling of how you like to do things, and you can incorporate the things in these books into how you already do them, right? So that's the difference. So next time you go shopping for books, you know, occult books, metaphysical books, spiritual books, you can ask yourself, well, what kind of book am I wanting? Am I wanting a full-fledged system? Am I wanting, you know, more structure? Or am I more of a freestyle person, right? Do I want to know, am I looking for a book that has a little bit of everything on a subject, right? Or am I already interested in a culture? I want to learn more about that culture so that I can put it into my magical practice, right? And that will determine what kind of book you're looking for. And it makes shopping for occult books so much easier whenever you kind of compartmentalize and categorize them. And you're like, okay, this is the kind of book I want. Now you can go into the witchy shop and you can find exactly what you want, because you can determine what kind of book is this and what kind of book was I wanting. It makes it a lot easier. I do hope actually that it makes it a lot easier. Maybe it doesn't make it a lot easier for you. But if you did enjoy this video, and if you have any questions about the books I showed, you can feel free to put those in the comment section down below as well. I can give you guys a brief, you know, what the book is. If you want a review of any of the books I've featured, let me know in the comment section. I'll work on doing a review of that particular book. And again, if you liked how these books are broken down and to make looking for what you really want easier, please hit the like button. And if you like me, please hit subscribe. And until next time, happy reading, happy dabbling, and bye-bye.